So if you've been doing retention for a while and you feel stuck, you have sex and are either dissatisfied with not finishing, or you get weak and finish too often, you've even considered stopping retention probably, but you don't want to because of all the benefits. I've been there and I got your back. Through Taoist practices, I learned how to orgasm without ejaculation. When I'm not on God mode, I employ these practices and abide by the Taoist age schedule for ejaculation frequency rates to be able to have an uplifting and balanced sex life. By doing this, one can finish actually multiple times and not spill one drop of semen. And actually, the sexual pleasure is unmatched from what you get when draining constantly. I did another inspirational video on this with some tips to let people know what is possible, as most men are actually clueless about this, and I will link that at the end if you're interested. In this video, I will give you more background and then delve more into the how-to of this matter as best I can without being too explicit. Also, I provided in a temporal format to give you a clear idea of what to expect in the phases of training this, broken into 2 sections entailing everything you need to know to get yourself to your first non-ejaculatory orgasm, and then everything you need to do from there to become a true multi-orgasmic male. I will mention things I was taught as well as things I have learned from personal experience that others have not spoken about yet. For now, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the info that I'm about to drop on you. Taoist philosophy stresses balance and harmony. Sexual energy is the most potent form of energy, and when channeled to the right pathways, it is the very source of enlightenment. Taoism utilizes this while celebrating one's sexuality with moderation. Doing these practices benefits both you and your partner as you focus more on giving rather than taking. You are no longer getting anything from her. From today, you begin with the frame of giving to her in every encounter. Semen retention gives us tremendous energy, and many people have come to experience this and many of the other benefits such as increased vitality, enhanced mental clarity, improved emotional well-being, and spiritual growth. Because of these benefits, practitioners are often motivated to continue retaining, but are also sometimes frustrated that they feel no release when having sex, as they have falsely been taught to associate orgasm with ejaculation. Having sex without orgasming can be invigorating, but if your only option is essentially edging in sex, which is what that is, then it is indeed a frustrating experience. Also, practitioners of retention often trick themselves into believing they love sex without a finish, just to own the frame on this topic, so to speak, and remove all cognitive dissonance surrounding this issue. They think that they will feel fulfilled by this, but in actuality, this is a source of frustration in their lives. That all ends today. It won't happen overnight, but you can now start this journey towards being a multi-orgasmic male and enjoying non-ejaculatory orgasms while retaining your seed at the same time. It may take 6 to 12 months to train this, but trust me, it will be worth it in the end. Just make sure you put boundaries with yourself so you still get your retention goals met, because in every encounter you train, you are at risk of spilling. Now, let's dive into the how-to on this matter fully, as best we can. From now on, you will separate in your head ejaculation from orgasm. The point of orgasm and the point of ejaculation are not the same. You can attain the same feeling and physical result, an involuntary contraction of the muscles that pulsate when you orgasm without ejaculation. You will no longer have to edge in sex after you get to this point, and you can finish multiple times because non-ejaculatory orgasms do not release semen and prolactin that drains you, and your erections do not subside or weaken after this type of orgasm. You can keep going. And to be clear, what we are teaching you is not ejaculation. You are using your mind to finish the orgasm without spilling your essence. Ejaculation just sends the essence inward and can actually be harmful to the practitioner. Go at least as long as your retention frequency schedule before trying this. To get to the point where you can do this, first you need to go at least your age limits time on the Taoist ejaculation frequency schedule without ejaculating. If you don't have a schedule, then watch my video on Taoist ejaculation schedules. I will link it in the description. But in this schedule, if you are 30, then you need to go at least 8 days without ejaculation before starting to train this. Also, if you have ejaculated a lot recently and are new to retention, just multiply that number from the schedule by 2 for your first round to ensure that you can actually do this. Master your breathing and visualization. Next, you will need to master your breathing in your sexual encounters. You will need to be in flow with your partner, so you will line up your breathing with theirs. Naturally, like everything else, you should be leading in breathing when having sex, as this is the first step in giving her pleasure. But if you haven't been cognizant of this, be aware of it going forward. From now on, when you're about to orgasm, you need to slow your breathing and focus on the point right under your belly button. Focus there, visualizing a black dot in the middle of a white light while you lead in the breathing. This tactic is used by many tantric masters and hypnotists to stop from orgasming when close to it. You can use it to treat premature ejaculation as well, but here you will slow everything down, not necessarily stop, but then continue. Edging in sex to figure out the point of no return. This is the point where edging in sex becomes crucial. You will always need to stop and go further, stop and go further, stop and go further, stop and go further. There is a point of no return here. You need to dial that in with full awareness. When you pass the point of no return, you will ejaculate. So make sure you schedule this accordingly so as to not go crazy and lose the benefits of retention. Push the boundary of the point of no return, contracting your PC muscles as you get closer and closer to the finish. When you figure out the point of no return and are mindful of it in all encounters, now the goal will be to get as close to that point and stop and then go, getting closer and closer but not orgasming, always stopping yourself. When you stop yourself, you will be contracting your pelvic floor or PC muscles to physically hold back. Also, doing Kegel exercises the whole time when you are in this period is beneficial because that muscle is pertinent to this process. Your first, and usually weak, non-ejaculatory orgasm. Eventually, after months of practice, you will come to feel a weaker version of an orgasm. This will feel like an involuntary pulsation of the muscles that spasm when you orgasm, and is accompanied with a little feeling of orgasm, but no release of semen. Congratulations, because at this point, you have had your first non-ejaculatory orgasm. Don't worry if it feels weak, as they will strengthen with time. Also, don't worry if you have pre-cum spillage, as this is mostly prostatic juice and not the essence. Also, with time, pre-cum will stop happening so long as you don't go crazy and don't have too many of these in a single encounter. Training to make this a natural process for yourself after you have had your first non-ejaculatory. If you get this involuntary pulsation and the orgasm feeling with no explosion of semen, you have just began winning the battle, and you have had your first non-ejaculatory orgasm. Although it will likely be way weaker than your potential, FYI, I would keep watching if I were you to learn how to train them to be stronger and more satisfying, because at least for me, they were not satisfying at this point. And if you mess up at this point, it will be detrimental to your process. But if you've gotten to this point, congrats and welcome to the 0.00 repeating 1%. You will question whether you have done it because again at this point the orgasm is much weaker, but trust me, you are in the winning seat here. What you just felt is the male version of a clitoral orgasm. Well, not exactly, because obviously there are physiological differences, but my analogy hits on the fact that clitoral orgasms are much weaker than vaginal orgasms. In fact, 80 to 90% of women have never experienced a vaginal orgasm. When they do, you know it. They can't fake the response, it's much different. They go through life dependent on a clitoral orgasm, and 99.9 repeating percent of men go through life dependent on ejaculation while never having experienced a non-ejaculatory orgasm. Now that you've gotten to this point, you join the ranks of those who do. Let's delve into how to dial it in now, because this is crucial to your learning on this process. Never breach your schedule for ejaculation at this point. It will take a while to dial this in. It took me about 6 months to get to this point and another 3 or so months to further train it and dial it in. It is critical at this point to never again breach your ejaculation schedule. If you ejaculate too much, you will not be able to have strong non-ejaculatories, point blank. Also, if you were having strong ones before and then you have weaker ones, it is probably because you were ejaculating too much. So knowing this can also help you to dial in your ejaculation schedule. Those ejaculation schedules, like everything else, are general guidelines, and we use our experience and science to dial things in for ourselves here. That's the only way to do things in life if you want the best results you can get out of everything. And that goes for everything. The most important part, continue training. You've experienced, but now you're going to make it natural. In order to continue training after your first few non-ejaculatories, you need to continue the breath technique and visualization. You need to continue mindfully bringing yourself closer to the point of no return and doing that whole dance until you have had way more non-ejaculatories. Kegel exercises are optional at this point, but you will still definitely need to be cognizant of contracting as you do the dance with the point of no return. As you progress, all of this will become less cognizant and more natural. Eventually, you won't even be doing any of the mentioned training methods. The dance with the point of no return and voluntary contractions of the PC muscles will not be needed when you have crossed the real finish, and the breathing and non-ejaculatory orgasms will be natural and subconscious. Again, I can't stress this enough, you will be consciously doing this for a little while before it becomes subconscious and natural. If you don't continue to train consciously, and you just declare victory prematurely after your first non-ejaculatory and then just ejaculate and go to sleep without having multiples or at least trying, and you don't follow your ejaculation schedule afterwards, then you may find that it is difficult to do this again. So do yourself a favor and keep training until it becomes natural. Keep hopeful and train even if you're not satisfied yet. Again, it is important to hold off from ejaculating too much in the beginning when you first become multi-orgasmic. It is tempting at this point to give in because you are still not going to feel the same emotional release as you would with ejaculation. But trust me, after a good dozen sessions where you do this after your first non-ejaculatory, you will start to feel the emotional release. And with more practice, the actual orgasms will become stronger, way stronger. Just be ready to deprogram yourself fully from equating the moment of orgasm to the moment of ejaculation. Most are ignorant on this matter. That is all this is, faulty programming. Taoists have known this about our bodies for centuries, but this was not publicly accessible knowledge. But now, thanks to YouTube and technology, you and I have this knowledge to aid us in retaining while being able to have a healthy sex life with orgasming and no spillage if we choose. I can't stress patience enough on this route. It takes time. Even when you start having them, there is more training to get them to be stronger and more satisfying. So don't breach your ejaculation schedule. Keep training. And by all means, have multiples in every session, or at least try. The more you retain, the stronger they become. And the more you do, the easier it becomes. Another point worth mentioning that I was never taught about this is the second point of no return. So you're at the point when you have trained, you are now multi-orgasmic and enjoying this regularly with your partner. Understand that if you don't plan to ejaculate in a session, then don't have too many non-ejaculatories. I found this out the hard way. As for me, if I have somewhere around 10 non-ejaculatories, I will get a horrible case of blue balls. Thus, I don't even come close to that number. If I have sex and I don't have a planned ejaculation coming up, I just have 2 to 3 non-ejaculatories, point blank. You will obviously have to figure out how your body works. As with everything I mentioned on this channel, experience trumps all advice. Nothing applies to everything, and you will only figure out your point of no return by doing. This will be natural when you get it, but may take a while for some to master. Others may take more or less than my 9 months did. Who knows? Just get in and do it, and you'll see. Talk to your partner and schedule stuff out accordingly. Well, in your head, obviously, not with your partner. Never schedule sex with your woman. You need to be spontaneous in this matter, or she won't feel pleasure. If she doesn't feel pleasure, then there is no point. Always approach sex from this point, with a giving mindset. Not only will they like it more and be begging you for it, unlike most men who are taking it instead of giving it, but you will find it easier if you are not selfish about it. There's just something about being selfless that makes everything better. Well guys, that was the best I can do without giving a super explicit video on this matter. I hope it helps, and I suggest you get Mantak Chia's book titled The Multi-Orgasmic Male for more information on this matter if you want another viewpoint. But now you have my viewpoint, which comes with years of experience and things that Master Chia has not mentioned in his book. Also, warning, if you read his or other Taoist masters' work on this, many Taoists teach this to be done either with the partner or in masturbation. I urge people not to masturbate and only do this with a partner. Not only is fapping disastrous to your system, but also, if you train to do this with fapping, then you may run into a situation where you can't do it in a real sexual encounter because you have trained yourself subconsciously to only do it in fapping, and who knows what demons will crawl out of the woodworks with that. I don't want you guys to be in that situation. Don't fap. It's disastrous for you anyways. You want to be doing this with a partner. That's the point. With that, I wish you all the best on your retention journey. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the comments. I'll do my best to answer all the questions I can. Be sure to like, subscribe, and all the bells and whistles if you're into my content, and I'll see you next time.